Okay, next up is that we need to do the plumbing for the sink that I had recently installed. And not just for the drainage plumbing, but I want to, water in plumbing too. So I want to build a little compartment in this area for my water jug. So it's going to sit real nicely right here. I'm going to have the plumbing come out from underneath the sink. And after I do the plumbing, then I'll know how much room I have for a little shelf that I could, put right here for a little bit of extra storage. But I don't want to make the shelf too low, because then I can't open up the refrigerator door. So I'm going to probably make it something like that. But I want to make sure I have the space after I hook up the plumbing. All right, so my idea is to use this jug right here. And I'll leave a link for the jug. It's a 6-gallon jug. And I'm going to build something for it to sit right there so that the door could still close and everything will be nice and tight, and I'll have easy access to the water, taking it in and putting it out. So what I need to do is I need to build a tray for this, and it's going to have to be level. There's nothing is level here, so I'm going to have to build up a little platform and a tray for this to sit in. All right, so this is the drainage it came with. Now, this is a full-on kitchen sink drain. It's big, 3.5-inch opening, and this is a 1.5-inch thread. So it's just basic home plumbing. So what I did is I got this PVC, 1.5-inch PVC thread to slip. And what I wanted to do is, I don't need such a big opening because there's no garbage disposal or anything that's going to go down this. So I want to reduce it to a 3/4. So what I got is a 3/4 reducer. And I put some caulking on the inside because there's a cavity in there, and I just filled up the cavity. I didn't want stale water to sit in that small cavity. It's optional, you don't have to do that, but this would slide in there like that. So now I got 3/4, and that is going to be my 1/2. So I'm going to install this in and then do the plumbing. Okay, so I'm going to install the drain, and these things just come off like that. And for the seal, you can use plumber's putty around the thing, but I don't have any plumber's putty left. It's all dried out. But you can also use silicone caulking. It's the same caulking that I use around the seal. Use clear. Don't use a color. It fits pretty tight, but you just want to get it all, so you don't want to have too much. Get that in there, and then screw this on from the bottom side. Make sure it's nice and tight. You won't need a tool or anything. Just doing it tight by your hand should be enough to take care of it. This cap is very important because the drainage will actually go outside of the car, and it's exposed to the outside. So just to avoid any kind of exhaust coming back through, this drain cap needs to always be on. I really doubt exhaust would come through just because of the location of the hole, but you never can tell. Want to be careful. So that's what it looks like from the bottom side. So now I'm going to put on that PVC that I told you guys about. So there's not going to be a lot of pressure in this water. It's just, gravity drip. So I'm not going to put any of the Teflon tape. I don't think I'll need it. And even for the joints on the PVC, I'm not even going to use any kind of PVC cement, because it slips in pretty tight, and for the most part it's watertight. It just can't handle pressurized water, in which case you do need to use the cement. But I've done water, low pressure water without having to use the cement, and water does not leak. But if it does leak, I'll put it on, but I really doubt it will. And the reason why I don't want to put the cement is just in case I need to take everything apart and modify something like I always do. I don't want to have to deal with the cement and cutting it and redoing it. All right, so I got a little elbow joint with 3/4. I'm gonna just slide right up there, and gotta make sure that the refrigerator can still open, which it opens at a good amount, so that's good. Measure about roughly that much. So I got on this elbow. A little bit too. Actually, it's okay. I was gonna say I did it a little bit too long, but I actually have to get it out anyway. So let's turn that. So it's gonna go down and it's gonna go out that way. All right, so I'm gonna need a little jog down and then go that way. And what I don't want to do is go all the way down and then go straight out, because the car might not always be level, and so you want water to always go downhill, of course. So I'm actually going to stop it somewhere around here so that it'll always keep running down that way, even if I'm on a little bit of an incline. Run down in that direction, and I'm going to have just a little bit of a decline, so it keeps going downhill. All right, that's hooked up. It's going down there. Now let's go down to the other side. All right, so if you remember when I built this cabinet, I built it with the bulkhead down there, and move that over. And so I have easy access to the bulkhead. If you look up, that's where the PVC is coming out. And then I'm gonna hook it up. All right, so because of that little angle here, instead of using a 90-degree fitting, I used a 45-degree. And that should lead right into my bulkhead pretty easily. All right, I found it easier to just put the 45-degree down there and then go straight up to the pipe. All right, so there's the bulkhead. I'll leave a link for the bulkhead. It works pretty well. All right, so going back to looking from this end, everything looks good. What doesn't look good is this fit. All these joints are really tight, but this guy is not tight. So I'm going to glue that in, and then and it'll not move. And I know some of you guys that are familiar with PVC and glue, you're probably saying, hey, don't use that, use the red stuff. The red stuff is the best. Yeah, it is better, but again, this is not a high pressure or any pressure at all pipes, and I don't want the red glue if I could avoid it. So the clear comes in the medium. All right, we're gonna need to let that dry before we test it out, and we're gonna take this opportunity and honor Steve Wallace and do a step 2. All right, so I made a little bit of miscalculation in this piping. So what I wanted to do was to put my potty thing in here, but now that the pipe is in there, you can see it no longer goes in because it's in the way. So one of the nice things about me not gluing these things in is I could easily modify it and remove it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it, instead of going at this angle, I'm going to make it go straight down and over. Then I'll move this shelf down here so that this thing will just sit up higher like that. And I'll use the bottom shelf for things that don't require as much space. You know, I'll put clothes or something down. All right, so I got the new piping style in. That way I'll be able to get this block back in there. All right, so if you saw a previous video, you'll see that I was talking about this angle thing to get into these tight places. And again, I'll leave a link for it for you guys. I think it's like 20 bucks or something on Amazon. but you know, this drill is too big for me to get into the screws that are here, so I'm just going to use this angle thing. This piece is measured a little too well. It's in there real tight, but I'll get it out and I'm gonna move it down. So I moved that second shelf down there, and the potty seat fits in. And I could just move other things right there. All right, so I'm ready for the testing to make sure everything's watertight, and it's in my driveway right now, and there's a decline that way. So if this thing drains, even with the decline, then I'll know it's good. Even if it doesn't drain with that sharp decline, it still might be all right. But I actually made it so it could handle a little bit of a decline. So I think it'll work. Let's give it a shot. Of course, you gotta make sure the cap is off. The cap stays on again, remember, because the exhaust might come in. Make sure nothing's plugged up. All right, let's give it a shot. All right, it's coming out. It's draining just fine. I don't see any leaks anywhere, so I think we're in good shape. All right, done with the drainage plumbing. All right, so I have this Ozark Trail water bottle. I'll leave a link in my description for you. It's a 6-gallon, and I made this tray for it to fit in pretty close to perfect, and I'm going to mount it up here, but you can see I'm going to have to build up the base so that it sits a little bit higher, because of those rails right there prevent me from letting it sit on the floor. So we're going to build it up and then screw it onto the cabinet frame so it'll be nice and sturdy. All right, so I built it up so that it extends so it sits nice and stable, and once I drill it into the ouch, splinter, drill it into the frame, it'll be good. That's what it looks like down there. Has some wood base. Now I'm gonna attach it to the frame. That's the way it looks. I think it fits pretty nicely. Double check that the door will still close. Of course it does, I measured it. Alright, so now that I know what this pipe is going to look like, I could install this little shelf right here, because I want a little bit of extra storage space in between, and I have a little bit of room for my refrigerator to still open fully, no problem. So I'm going to put a little shelf and some drawers right there. Okay, so what I'm going to use for this drawer, I don't have a lot of space, I just have a few inches. But I got these stackable mini drawer things at the local discount store at the Daiso. It's kind of like a Japanese discount store, but it comes in these single packs like this, and then you can stack them up double like that. So I don't have a lot of room down here, so I'm going to build a shelf to put these drawers like that, so I could still open up my refrigerator. That's why I don't have a lot of room. And I think it'll fit nicely. I was going to do just one, but I feel like I have room to make two. Okay, so to keep these drawers nice and firm on this shelf, what I'm going to do is take it apart, and then I'm going to screw this right into the shelf so it's nice and firm. All right, so I got these 4 screws in to the base, and then I'm going to put the drawers, snap it back in like that. I'll need 2 hands for that, and then I'll do this side. All right, so that's the way it looks, and that's my sink, that's my drawers. You can look underneath, there's the piping. It just barely fits. I actually had to cut the plastic just a little bit on one side to make it fit. So there are the drawers, nice and snug. Here's what it looks like on this side, the drawers. And so now that this is in, I could start working on the plumbing for the faucet. So I didn't want to do the faucet yet because I wanted to see how these shelves fit in to see what space I have to work with. So now need to have a faucet somehow come over here, but the idea is that I want the faucet to be completely removed when I'm not using it. And part of the reason is, remember I said I wanted this to double as a second person bed, and I don't want the faucet to be knocked around and broken off while someone's sleeping. All right, so looking into what I have from previous builds to see if I have something I can cannibalize. I have this mechanical pump, which is, you know, real easy, real simple. Just a tube goes in like that. Have you ever tried to wash your hands with a mechanical pump? You know, you got to do this one hand, switch around to the other hand and pump business. It sounds good to have no power and a mechanical pump, but it's a pain in the butt. You need to have both hands. If somehow you could pump with your feet, it'd be okay, but you can't. So I really didn't like this at all. Let's see what else I have. I could use a sprayer, and you know, this is, you know, just like a bug sprayer nozzle, and you pump the bug sprayer and then, you know, you just use it. But yeah, you pump first and then it's there, so it's one step better, but it's still not great because you still have to, you know, wash your hands like this. Yeah, you're not pumping, but you still need that other hand on this thing, which I'm not a fan of. Let's see what else I got in here. This. This is actually not bad. What this is it's a nozzle, kind of like a shower nozzle, and it's run by 12 volt, so it's real nice. And you know, you turn on the switch, and then it'll be running water, and you could use both. You could wash both your hands at the same time. This is actually pretty good, but I can't use it for this application because of this. This is the pump. It's just too big for me to put in here. My hole's not big enough for this pump. So for this to work, you need a bigger mouth opening, which I don't have with this tub. So nice, but can't use it for this application. I might be able to use it for my future showers. Stay tuned. I got some ideas cooking for a shower. Next up is I got this pump. This is a 35 psi pump, and if you're familiar with numbers, 35 is very low. It's probably the lowest you can get. They probably won't even sell them much lower than that. And I tried a 95 psi or something like that before, and it just shot through. It was just way too powerful for this little type of sink. So the 35 works much better. So 35, and what I have here is this drinking water faucet thing. You know, it clicks up so your hands could be free. You know, you don't need hot and cold. It's very small, compact, and you hook it up to this, and you're sitting pretty. So I think this is what I'm going to try. We'll see how it goes. So let me show you how I'm going to mount this up. So up here, I'd like to mount this up here, but again, I don't want to mount it permanently. I want to make a system where I can make it just sit right here and then use it. So what I'm thinking is that I could easily fashion some kind of clamp, and it's already has something I could tighten it up with, so that shouldn't be very hard at all. In fact, I could probably just use it as is. Let me put this down and show you what I mean. So that's what I mean. I just basically clamping it on this wood. I could probably use it like that, but I don't. I think I want it a little bit more secure. It's okay. It's not going anywhere. It's not real high pressure. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a little hole, to a slot for this to slide in, and then I could clamp it down, and it'll hold a lot better. And you'll see what I mean in a little bit. All right, so I got the hole drilled in, and the hole is big enough for this, but I'm gonna have a tube, so I can't just have this type of hole. I need a way to get into there, so I'm going to cut a path. All right, good. So the idea is I'm going to slide this thing in with the tube and all. The water tube from there. I'm going to slide this in. Then clamp it like that. So that's a lot more secure now that I got in further than just sitting on the edge. I'll show you what it looks like from this side. So that's really secure, and I feel good about that. All right, so now I'm going to do the plumbing for it. All right, so next up, I want to mount the motor, and this is not a small motor. It's not tiny. I wish it was smaller. I wish I could have the smallest, tiniest motor water pump possible, but this might be it for me. So I don't want to put it here. I'm going to walk in and out. So anyways, it's nice to have access to the motor if I want to get to it, do any kind of maintenance or anything like that, but I definitely don't want to leave it here, you know, just sitting around. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it on this side of this, and that should be fine. And this motor doesn't have any switches. You just plug it in, and if it recognizes that there's no pressure, the valve is closed, or a lot of pressure, the valve is closed, it'll shut off. And if I open up the valve, the motor turns on. So if this motor works right, you know, I shouldn't need to get to it. There's no switch, and hopefully there's no maintenance. All right, so here's the intake tube. And what happens when you have these intake tubes is you stick them in, and you can see it starts to bend, and it may never reach the bottom. It just keeps bending and starts curling up. So one thing you can do is just to use a PVC pipe to keep it straight, to go all the way down. And what I recommend is you measure the PVC pipe so that it never falls in completely. Then you have to fish it out. So basically measure it at the worst case scenario at a diagonal, and then cut your pipe right there. That way this PVC will never fall in there completely and give you a hard time getting it out. All right, so I have that pipe in, and I see even at the worst angle I won't lose it, so it'll always be there. Okay, so when I'm traveling, I'm going to cap it completely to make it sealed, of course, but when it's in use, I'm just going to leave it like this when we're stopped, and this I'll just leave in there. So let's power it up and give it a test. Right. So that's the way I have it. I have a long tube, so I could actually remove it and use it out here if I like. Here's the intake tube that goes into here. Oops, this is the intake. Goes into there. There's the pump. The power line, I haven't cleaned it up, but I just hooked it up because I'm just testing it up. But it's going to be tested to a switch. I could put it directly to power, but if anything happens and one of the lines bursts, it'll just keep pumping forever, and that's not a good thing. So I am going to have a switch, and it's only going to be switched on when I actually want to use it. Right now it is on. Let's give it a shot. All right, so it's plugged in. The motor is not running, and it should run when I open up the valve, and then it should shut off. Get the air out first. Get the air bubbles out. There. And you shut it off, it just shuts off. Okay? Seems like it's working well. It's a little bit more pressure than I like. You're probably thinking that's not a lot, but I don't want things to splash around in here. So it's draining. You can hear it going down the drain, and let's look under the car. All right, it's draining really nicely underneath the car. So if you're If you're worried about where you're parking, you know, if you're camping, you know, it's no different than washing your hands on the dirt, having the water come out here. If you're stealth camping in a parking lot, then you may need a gray water tank, and that's actually coming later. All right, so if I want to store it, I just give it a couple of screws, unscrews, and I can store this just like that. And also, I got 10 feet of hose for me to take it, you know, somewhere around my car. I could bathe outside of the car with this nozzle if I'd like to. Oh yeah, I forgot. I'll leave a link to this and the pump and this nozzle and whatnot if you guys are interested in the same type of setup. I think that's it for now. I'm gonna clean up the wiring, but I don't want to do that today because you know what? It's Miller time. You know I don't drink Miller.